Hey, it's Kevin Purcell with Theotek Podcast, number 10. It's a new year and a new you, and we're excited because we've been on a bit of a hiatus lately. We took the holidays off and the first Friday of the new year, but we get together every Friday morning about 9 o'clock, and we talk about church and Bible technology. And this morning, we've got a couple of interesting things we want to talk about related to using mobile devices to supplement what you do in your church office. We'll get into that in just a second, but here's our panel this morning. We've got Wes Allen and Antoine Wright, our two regulars. We're excited. You and
hold on.
We've been on a bit of a someone's got some audio on, and that was Wes. Wes, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. I had our live broadcast up on the YouTube channel trying to figure out how to get the comment feed to work, and it started playing automatically as soon as we went live. So I know there's about a 10-second delay, which is really kind of fun.
If you haven't joined us before, you see Wes there. His website is painfullyhopeful.me. I can't speak this morning.
That is me.
Pastor in the greater Philadelphia area in New Jersey, actually, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and also a tech guru for his denomination. Did you have a good holiday and anything new and cool to report?
I had a really nice holiday. Yeah, I got a couple of cool things to report. Just before we broke for Christmas and New Year's up at ABCNJ, we put in an order at B&H Photo for a bunch of equipment to set up a video studio. And I've went up one day while the office was closed and started it, and last Monday I continued, and this coming week I'll finish setting it up and start playing with it. So got some lights, got some mics, got some cameras. I got a really cool little switcher. I have a playground. It's fun.
Good. All right. That does sound fun. Maybe we'll talk about that one day, how you got that set up, because there might be some people out there interested in hearing more about it. All right. Antoine, our good buddy Antoine, the Mr. Mobile Ministry Magazine guy and all-around good fella from just down the road from me in Charlotte, and he's a consultant for church and Bible technology for lots of different folks. How are you doing, sir?
Not too bad, not too bad. Cold.
It is cold.
It's not.
In fact, he's so cold he froze. He just actually froze. It's just let it go, man. He's frozen. There we go.
Oh my gosh! Did you really go let it go?
I did let it go. Anything new or exciting for you to report with the holidays? Did you have a good holiday break? And
I had a good break. No, nothing new. I didn't get any techie Christmas gifts either. I mean, unless you count the Fitbit on my wrist, that just a low-end Fitbit to get to challenge my lady alongside with, since she's doing the Fitbit thing. So I've got 2 fitness trackers on these days, but really nothing else going on these days.
Okay. Well, I'll just share one cool new toy that I got that it's actually going to be my wife's, and I'm looking for the website so you can actually see it. But are you guys familiar with the HP Stream notebook computers that just came out? They're sort of Microsoft's low-end, HP low-end devices. They're designed primarily as a Chromebook killer, is the way a lot of people are advertising them, and I think that's actually a pretty appropriate. Well, I picked one up for my wife. I picked it up for me, to be honest with you, and it's just not the kind of computer that I'm going to be able to use productively because it's just so limiting. But they had it on sale over the holidays for $199, and that's really hard for someone like me to pass up who has more money than intelligence, which I don't have a whole lot of money, so that tells you where I'm at. But I just thought I'd just mention it only because I think the most interesting thing about it is what it can't do for church technology. If any of you guys out there are at all interested in, I'm trying to share my screen so you actually can see it. Can you see that there? Actually, I think I have Antoine selected instead of just letting it go. There we go. But this thing is it's a 2 gigabyte memory, 32 gigabyte with an Intel Celeron 2840 processor. And if you didn't have to do anything with any power, it would be awesome, because for that price, and when I got it, it was $199. It's basically just to get online and do Office computer. That's all it's for, you know. And so if that's all you got to do, get one. They're good. I mean, it boots fast because of that SSD. You wouldn't think 2 gigabytes would be enough, but if you only run 1 or 2 programs at a time, that's decent. And it works, you know. So for $200, you get a Windows computer. It won't even install my copy of Logos Bible software, and the reason is I have too big a library. But if you got a real tiny library, it might work. And then once it starts indexing, I got the computer on a Friday. I installed it that night, and by Monday morning, it still wasn't finished indexing. So what are you showing off there, bud?
It's Chromebook.
Same one, but except this is from Asus. Asus also has a similar. A similar model. It's got a little bit better RAM. This one came with 3 gigs of RAM in it instead of 2, so it actually works a little bit faster. And it was about $229, $250. Best Buy and a few other places had it around the holidays.
How much storage?
So 16 gigs.
What's that running? Same thing as the stream?
Yeah. A little bit more than a stream. It actually felt better comparing them in the store. The lady wanted a Windows laptop, and so we went out looking, and she liked the Chromebook, but she needed to do Windowsy things, and the Asus felt best to her. It was fingernail friendly. That's how she described the keyboard. So she likes it a lot.
Well, I have the HP Chromebook 14 Chromebook, you know, and I love that thing. I still think, even a year and a half or year and 3 months after it came out, I still think it's the best Chromebook on the market until we start getting the Broadwell processors and some of the ones that were just announced at CES. But I still think it's the best because it's the fastest, in my opinion. It has the best hardware. And so this uses the same design, and that's why I was excited about it. But when I couldn't run Logos, and, you know, I use Logos and Word Search primarily, and if I can't run Logos, I'm not going to, you know. So I was going to return it, and then my wife was like, you know, I almost wish you had gotten me a computer for Christmas. And, of course, to hear that from my wife, I was like, are you serious? Really? You know, because in the past, I didn't do that, and she was like, no, I don't want a computer. But she had a little HP tablet PC, you know, the old kind that had the switch on it. And anyway, it was, and it died. After almost 7 years of use, it finally conked out on her this last year. So anyway, that's the cool tech that I got, and I've got some Amazon gift cards that I bought, a few things that'll be coming soon. Maybe I'll talk about them later. But what we really want to get into is I was inspired when I heard on another podcast someone call in and say, I want to be able to do my church bulletins on my iPad. What do I get? What do I use? And of course, this was a secular podcast, so they didn't have a clue what to talk about. They just said, yeah, I'll get Keynote. And so that inspired me, and I talked to our team here of guys, and I said, guys, you know, do you know anything that would be valuable for, let's broaden the topic and talk about supplementing the church office with mobile technology. And of course, you know, Antoine being our mobile guy, you immediately said what when I said, you know, you supplement.
Well, I have an office.
Yeah, why have an office? And we've had this.
I agree with Antoine.
What's that?
But I agree with Antoine. So.
and my response to that is, and you know, others, we've talked about this before, and that is, you know, traditional offices are a part of the church milieu right now. It's going to be for the next few years, but it's going away from that. In fact, I know of some churches that, you know, are getting away from that. I have an office. I'm in my office at my church right now, but honestly, you know, I would almost rather not. I would almost rather take all my books and put them at home somewhere, and then, you know, just once every morning, tweet out, I'm at this coffee shop, or I'm over here at the Chick-fil-A, or I'm at, so-and-so, or I'm over at the associational office today. If you want to see me, come by, and be out, because I like to be out and among people when I'm working. Even if I don't talk to them, I still just feel more comfortable when I'm out among them. And we don't have a secretary, so that's a big difference. We're a small church without a secretary right now, or at all. We haven't had one in the almost 8 years now that I've been here. So that's interesting, but still. So we're not going to say let's replace the office, because as much as we think that'd be cool, that's just not where most church people are right now. They're not there yet. But let's take that baby step and say, well, all right, your secretary might not be cooped up in her office all day. She might have to go out and do stuff. Or maybe you're like me. You don't have a secretary. You're a small church, and you don't want to be cooped up in the office. You have to go to the hospital, and maybe you're waiting. The doctor said, no, you can't go in that room, but in 20 minutes you can, and you say, well, I'm not going to leave, so I'll stay here and wait. So for 20 minutes, can I get some work done? And yeah, of course you can. There's tons of ways. Obviously, you can have a laptop with your Bible software, and you can do your Bible studies, or a tablet or a phone with that kind of stuff on it. But maybe it's crunch time. You need to get the church newsletter out, or the bulletin out, or So let's think about that. Now, obviously, one way you can do that, like the people on that podcast said, pull up pages on your on your iPad, or Microsoft Office now runs on a tablet. But what do you guys think? What do you recommend for this kind of thing? For just doing church office work in general. Let's start with you, Antoine. You've got some ideas about this, about maybe some things that you do mobile in order to keep contact with people.
One of the basic things that just first and foremost, we've talked about this in earlier Theoteks, is the use of software like OneNote or Evernote. Instead of keeping things locked into, this is a Word document, or this is a presentation, or here's my contact management system. Services like Evernote and OneNote really combine the best of all of those worlds, and they're accessible anywhere you go with any device that you have. It would make sense. It makes a lot of good sense, for a small church team, to utilize a OneNote or an Evernote, or even if they're geeky enough, to be able to share content and processes and calendars, and be able to work when away from their desk, but maybe not necessarily away from the work.
Okay, how do you use OneNote in that kind of thing? What do you do with it? How would people in the church office use it?
That's a really wide open question. The better question is, how wouldn't you? OneNote is essentially a digital notebook. So is OneNote and Evernote are just digital notebooks. You have shared notebooks that you can collaborate against, with your team members. The finance team, if there's 2 or 3 persons on the finance team, they may have a shared notebook that has all of the financial data, whether that's spreadsheet type data, table data, contact list, etc. And then you can integrate, a little bit of everything to it. You got it scrolling on the screen right now. You can scan items in right from your scanner into OneNote or into Evernote. As a matter of fact, Evernote came out yesterday with a really neat app, Scan something, that allows you to quickly scan items right from your tablet or your phone, and scan, package, and have it ready to be searchable right inside of Evernote, or send it to somebody else if you need to. So that's one method. Things that we do.
Say something real quick about what you're talking about there, scanning. If you're trying to go paperless, a small portable scanner like this Doxy, I've reviewed that. You can read a review of it over at gottabemobile.com. Just search for Doxy.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent little scanner. It does a great job. It's mobile, battery powered. You can plug it into a laptop and scan directly to a laptop. But so this could be, so how much you use this? Well, maybe your church is still stuck in the old-fashioned, let's create, a new member joins, they fill out a visitor card, or a new member card. you can scan it, just pop it into this thing right there at the front of the sanctuary after the person has joined. You know, flip it over so you can scan the other side, or actually they have a two-sided one version of it. I didn't review that one, but so that's a great option. Or you know, let's say you're in a meeting with, you know, that old-fashioned church clerk, and she's, you know, gathering all the contact information about all the membership or whatever, and hands you a big stack of pages. Well, you know, scan those puppies right in there, and that way you can. I'd chuck the papers. But then what you were talking about is that app, and I just downloaded that last night. We still haven't gotten a solution for me properly putting stuff on my laptop, but scanner software for an iPad is awesome. You know, use it to quickly scan. I'm looking for it here. It's called Scannable. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, Scannable. It's really neat. I mean, I already personally use Evernote for, you know, a good chunk of OCR scanning type items. It just expands on that particular feature in Evernote. You know, kind of separates it out, lets it be its own app. The difference with using Scannable versus maybe using Evernote, you're not putting photos into your device's photo gallery. So, you know, maybe if you're scanning some, you know, important documents that you don't necessarily need to be backed up into iCloud or wherever else, you know, it comes in a good bit of handy, and it works I scan about a 12-page document. It usually takes me about 5 or 10 minutes to get everything focused in and scanned really good, you know, on one fell swoop. But with Scannable, I could really knock that out in less than 2 minutes.
Here's something I hate. If you'll notice on the website here, it says available on the App Store. Well, which one?
Installing it at the moment.
Apple, right there. You got to go with Apple. For this.
Yeah, right now that's only an Apple app. That's and which is fine, you know, because at least for Evernote's world, the for Evernote and OneNote, both of them already do this kind of take a picture, stick it in a notebook, file it away, you know, be able to search on it later. They already do that innately. This application, at least on the iOS side, it makes it a lot faster, and it does a really good job of pulling contact information and aggregating information right off of that immediately. As you got showing up there, you know, a bunch of business cards, you know, nice and easy as well.
Let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. We're looking at the Scannable app. I think Wes is sharing this on his screen, so you can see. This is the opening help stuff to show you what it is. Boy, that ScanSnap looks like an awesome device, but $500, forget it. Especially when you got
free.
What's that?
When this is free.
Yeah, the app is free. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you don't need
the app is free. The scanner is not.
Scanner for it. It's just the app will control the scanner if you update somewhere on it.
Well, you scan and it goes right into the app, which is really neat in and of itself too.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. I hate having documents in my either I have both an iPhone and an Android phone, and I hate having that kind of junk in the camera roll.
Yeah.
So annoying, but that's the only way to do it with up until now that I know of. That's the only way. Well, that's not true. There's Camera Plus. You can take images, and you don't have to do that. But anyway, okay, that's one solution. Antoine, what else have you got?
Well, that's probably the major one, because when you get down to it, there's really not much different data out there. Now, granted, I think Kevin, you had a list of church management software from up on CC Mag. If any church is using that, I mean, you instantly don't need to stay at your desk all day, and work on something, or you can work from elsewhere. A good chunk of the 100 and some odd items on that list, if you have some decent church management software, a specific contact list, sales data, donation data, etc. Those are things that you should be able to log into your web console and do from any device, or at least almost any device, and still be decently productive.
Yeah, I'm trying to share this. I accidentally hit cancel instead of share. Do you see that? It may be just kind of a big mess, but you can find that easily if you go to ccmag.com and scroll down here. This is what ccmag.com looks like. It's the periodical that I write for, and right here is the link to it that opens up a big chart like this, and it talks about all these different solutions, ACS technologies, Arena CMS, CHMS, Breeze. You know, you can see all the different things that you can use. And I guess oh, okay, this, if you want to get rid of them, you can get rid of them. So restore all companies and fields over here if you want to see all of them again. But maybe you've gone through here and you're like, oh, look, Membership Plus. That stinks. I'm getting rid of those. Because it doesn't seem to have anything. But so you go down the list here and it tells you all the features that it has. I'm looking for, well, here's web-based solutions, so you could do that from a mobile device, I guess, all of these things. I don't know. We haven't tested any of these, so I don't know. Sadly, it's an area that none of our team members here in the podcast are very good at. None of us use or do this stuff. It'd be neat if we could get some.
Oh no, I don't take that back. I do content management stuff, but I don't do church content management.
Church management. That's what I was talking about. Was church management software. None of us do church management software, do we?
I made my own.
No, not anymore. It's so, you know, believe it or not, really, so much of what we do, you know, in our churches, you know, there used to be a really big need for church management software, but a lot of the not church management software has really picked up, and it's as good, if not better, in some cases. So you got a whole lot of days doing.
It's not a deep market.
What do you mean by not church management? I think I understand, but I want to make sure our listeners and watchers know.
You know, folks want donation management software. They've been using Salesforce, you know, for example, because Salesforce is, you know, great for things like that. Or folks that have been trying to do, you know, specific projects. I've got some mission groups here in Charlotte. There's no, you know, church management software that helps them do missions planning for those groups, but those guys pull up Basecamp in a heartbeat and run their projects using Basecamp. So, you know, there's the tools that are out there. I mean, there's a ton of tools that are out there. It's really all about how that team, you know, that church's team really wants to manage that information. It could be something as simple as a OneNote or Evernote for collaboration, but then it does scale to either CHCMS or CMS or CRM, like all that we've mentioned already.
Okay. Well, Wes, share with us your thoughts about you've got a solution that helps with, you know, maybe sharing and hosting of files without having to give it over to someone like Dropbox. Talk about that for a second.
Yeah. Let me start with that. I got a couple of things I can share, but I set this up over. Where is it? Hold on one second. I set this up over Christmas, and it doesn't want to share right now. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I see. I saw myself.
I'm going to bring it back up again. Did you like my Gandalf? All right, let's see what we got here. All right. So this is what I have for. I set this up over Christmas. This is something called OwnCloud. OwnCloud. You can find it on OwnCloud.org, and like you said, you can set it up to basically not give over all your data to something like Dropbox. And this is something that a lot of people are becoming concerned a bit about. It's more of a geek problem right now, but I think more and more people are becoming aware. All the stuff we're putting out on the web, we have no idea what these companies are doing with it. And you know, you have that old mantra: if you're not paying for it, you're not the client or the customer. You're the product. I'm not too thrilled with that deal with a lot of things, especially my personal data. So I set up this service called OwnCloud over winter break. I'm running it right now on a Raspberry Pi, which is that little pocket, you know, little credit card sized computer that we showed off here before. And I have essentially I plugged in an external hard drive, so I have about think 350 gigabytes suddenly of online storage available to me, and I set up OwnCloud to essentially run like a Dropbox type situation. And so I keep trying to click on my screen. I have 3 folder files right now in my documents. What I have found really cool is there's actually a web app component to this, so that if you're just accessing through a computer and you log into your server, see that first file is an ODT, that's an open document text file. If you log in and try to go on the website with that, it will actually open it up as an editor. It doesn't have that built into the application right now, so you almost can do a Google Docs style collaborative editing with text files, which I find really cool. The other things that are built into it that I didn't know about when I set this up, I primarily set it up for remote storage and syncing, but it also has built into it a bunch of things that they call applications. It has a calendar server. It has what else does it have? It has a task management server. It has a contact server, and it all runs over these new open standards: CalDave, WebDave, and I think I don't know if it's TaskDave, but
no, not.
So essentially, if you set that up, you can use your own service as your cloud-enabled calendar, and because you can create users, you see this folder here is between me and one of the other users on my ABCNJ staff. We're testing this out to see if we want to use this for our cloud service at work, and I can show you off some cool stuff here. That's my friend Teresa in my new studio. So these are the types of things you can do, but you can set this up and you can use it almost exactly like Google Calendar. The web interface is actually very slick, and the fact that it's synced in through WebDave, I can connect it to any client and we can use it. Then we own the data. Yeah, I don't have to worry about Dropbox changing their terms of service or Google changing their terms of service. I have all that on my own. And the Raspberry Pi is a little underpowered to run it. This is all with different lights, by the way. That's natural light, and then this is with all light. It's a little underpowered, so I might want to get a little something with a little more kick to run it for a lot of users. But it's really neat.
All right. So what is the benefit of someone who is trying to do some work out of their office?
Well, they can access all the data from here, and they can edit it and put stuff back in. So say if I'm taking photos or if I'm working on a project, I can open it up in my editor and then throw it right back into OwnCloud, and it'll sync back and it'll be there for me when I go out. If I'm out and about and I need to give something to someone else to work on, I can throw it in there and they can get it. So I can use it almost exactly like Dropbox, with actually a little bit of added functionality, which I find it very helpful.
Cool. All right. As you were talking about this, there are other solutions similar to this, maybe that don't include the file sharing feature, but my thought was, okay, what if I want to be able to access my computer, but I don't have my computer with me? Like, let's say the secretary has she's got a big beefy program for church management, and kind of cool, doesn't it? Let me hide my anyway, and she has to use that program and she wants to access it, but she's not in the office, or maybe the pastor does, he's not in the office. Splashtop is one of a dozen or more apps that you can use. One of the reasons I like Splashtop is it's free and robust, and it also has some other cool features for presentations that cost a little extra. They're in-app purchases. But basically what it lets you do is, here are my 3 computers that I have Splashtop installed in: my Mac Mini, my MacBook Pro, and then this is the computer I'm on right now. And I can just click on it and connect to it. Let's see if this will let me do it while we're streaming. It might not. All right, and I can enter my login. There we go. So there is my this is my home computer, which I'm running here now. I was complaining about that HP Stream notebook unable to run Logos, but if I wanted to, I could just jump on it right here, and open up Splashtop on that computer and access Logos on my home computer. Let's say I want to do some Photoshop editing. I've got something, and all I need to do is I've set up a slide for the announcements for church, and I noticed, I spelled church with CHUCH, and I need to edit that real quick. And so there's something that you can fix that. Let me get rid of that. It's stuck. So I could pull that up. There's no way that you could run full Photoshop on a Chromebook or an iPad or on your phone, but you can do it through Splashtop. So that's one cool option that you could use, and any software you've got on your computer, you now have access to. It's not fast. I wouldn't want to do this like for hours a day, but for a quick, grab it and go. These virtual control applications are pretty good. LogMeIn used to be free. It no longer is. What are some of the other ones? You guys know some other ones that are available?
Microsoft has Remote Desktop, which is always.
Apple has Back to My Mac.
Yeah, Back to My Mac. I've never really used, even though I'm somewhat of a Mac person, but.
You have Go to My PC. You've got GoToMeeting that folks use during presentations.
TeamViewer. There's one.
If you got Office 365, you can use Microsoft Link in order to do screen sharing and collaboration from just about any device. Just about. Devices
Wes, you probably know, what's the name of the virtual machine software that's so popular on Macs? I'm losing the.
You have Parallels and VMware Fusion.
Parallels Access. It's called Parallels Access. They have a service that if you are already a Parallels user, that you can get access to your any of your virtual machines as well as the host computer through an iPad through Parallels Access. And what it does, it's really nifty, is it sets up all your applications on that host computer. If you're using it from your iPad, you open up Parallels Access on the iPad, and it turns your host computer apps into that familiar iOS-style grid of apps. And so you tap it like you're opening an app on your iPad or iPhone home screen, and then of course it pops up and it adds some tap to click features that are involved there. And so you almost feel like you're using Windows, but with a iPad-style interface on top of Windows. And so that's a good one too, but that costs some money. TeamViewer is free. I'm not TeamViewer. Splashtop has a free option for you to use, and so I think those are some of the great.
Have you had good luck with Splashtop? Because I've always had mixed results with it. That's one of the reasons why I use Back to My Mac for my work stuff.
Well, since I'm cross-platform, I've got a Microsoft Surface tablet,
right?
Windows, and I also have a Samsung Galaxy Note 4 phone. I would not try to rely on something that was proprietary like that. So, I've never used Back to My Mac. But to answer your question, no, I've never really had any trouble. What kind of trouble did you have?
Just trouble connecting. I got it like a long time ago, and they've changed the service so many times that every time they change it, you have to like reconfigure it and reset it up. And every time they've done it, it's just been a pain in the neck. So I finally gave up trying it. But if you've had good experience with it, I might try to go through because I really would like something cross-platform and able to use on any device.
Yeah, I've been going about 6 months or so with it. When LogMeIn stopped offering a free version, I began looking for other solutions because it's something I want, but I'm not willing to pay any more for it. I actually bought the LogMeIn app for $30 back when the iPad first came out. And then they started offering it for free, and that kind of, peeved me a little bit. And then I paid $30 for something that 6 months later everybody got for free. But then they started charging for access to the service, and I said, I'm not going to bother. So that's when I switched over. I think it's when I switched over to Splashtop. I might have used something else in the interim. I used Parallels Access for a while because I didn't pay for it, but I got it for review. And once the subscription, the free subscription they gave me to review it was up, I quit using it because I didn't want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, guys, don't forget, we got BitTorrent Sync as well. That's something to throw in there as well.
Yeah, we talked about that for file sharing, and that's a good solution. All right, Wes, are you going to switch from BitTorrent Sync? I know you're a big proponent of that to this.
I'm still up in the air. BitTorrent Sync is really easy to. It's simple to configure, and it is very light on resources. The problem is it's such a pain to get people connected to you. Because the paradigm's so completely different. You know, the one thing about OwnCloud is that it actually uses that classic user password, permissions concept. And people are, for as much as geeks like to make fun of people, they're used to that concept. The idea of peer-to-peer, they don't get. And I tested it out a little bit with my AVCNJ work, and people just didn't like it. I mean, even though once it worked, it just works, and it works really extremely well. Every time you created a new folder, they had to do a new share, and they wanted to go over here, and they had to figure out where to store it, and they didn't like it. So I'm going to keep on using it for the things that I'm using it for, because it is so light on resources, and it's neat to have something peer-to-peer like that. But I don't know how broadly I'm going to use OwnCloud with other people.
Okay. Well, let's move on to one other solution that I just want to share with you. We actually none of us really like this because of the cost, but someone might still find it valuable, and if you're willing to pay the price, it might be a decent service, and that is something called Bulletin Plus, and I am trying to share it with you now. Do you see that now? I'm having trouble with this today.
Actually, I don't see it now.
I just saw it.
You just jumped up for you? Okay. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble navigating all my open windows here. But anyway, this is a service that lets you create a digital bulletin. And what that means is, everybody has, not everybody, the traditional church has the weekly bulletin you hand out before the service. It's got the order of service, the announcements, the prayer list, the contact information, whatever else you might put in your bulletin at your church. Well, what if you want to quit killing trees and you want to start letting people do this on your phone, and the majority of your folks are digital native or digital immigrants, as I like to call myself. I didn't grow up with it, but I've fully switched over to it in most of my lifestyle. And this is something that you can use. It allows you to kind of create a bulletin online. So go here to bulletinpl.us and get a look at it. Now, here's why none of us think this is a great solution, and that's it. 59 big ones a month. Made for your church. It should say made for someone else's church, because I'm not. But I bring it up, and the reason is it's got an iPad app, and it's got other apps, so people can look at it. Here's all the things it does: unlimited email subscribers, free Bulletin Plus app, stock photos, user management, has calendar information over here, easy to register. So it looks like almost a mini church management system, but still, that for a small church like mine,
$59 a month.
$59 a month is pretty steep. I don't know, unless you're one of these 1,000-member mega churches, not 1,000 people in attendance mega churches. You're not likely to be able to afford that price. Maybe some can, but ours, I would never even consider it. So, we'll just throw it out there as an option. Is there anything that you guys could think of, maybe that we could use free services in place of something like that? Could you?
Well, yeah, and I was talking about how I basically set up my bulletin as an ebook every week and just publish that.
Yeah, tell me, what do you do there?
Yeah, well, I'll show you a workflow that you can do entirely on your iPad since I'm mobile, and I'll explain how we actually work it is a little bit different. But let me share my screen here quick. Come on.
while you're doing that, what you're saying is basically you create your bulletin and then make a digital version of it and then send that out and share that out to people everywhere.
That is correct. So the way that we work it right now is my secretary creates a print bulletin because we are living in a world where people still want dead trees. It's not my favorite thing in the world, and I haven't picked up a bulletin in I don't know how long. But then what she'll do is she'll take all the text of the order of worship and the service, and she'll throw it up on Central Baptist website just simply as an HTML file. And that's great. People can scroll through it and whatnot. But I like the idea of an ebook because you can change the size of the font, and it's formatted for screen and all that sort of cool stuff. So this is how I could do it on my iPad. If I took all the text that I copied off of the website and I set it up, this is in Markdown. So if you know anything about Markdown, any block of text that has a blank line above and a blank line below is a paragraph. Anything with a little caret in front like there, that's a block quote. Anything with two asterisks around it is bold, and anything with one asterisk around it is italics. So that's just the real basic Markdown stuff. Now you can copy all this text, and there is an app that I use in my on my iPad called Creative Book Builder, and it'll read Markdown. So here's the Markdown that basically put it there. I think this was the same week. I'm not sure.
Stop you for a second. Let's ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything, like let's say I don't want to learn Markdown. Is there a way to, does this Creative Book Builder use anything other than Markdown?
Yeah, I can just put paragraphs in and titles and everything just right from here.
Okay, all right.
I can Markdown because it's faster.
Right. So it'll do that formatting for you. But
correct. If I want to put in a title or a paragraph or something, I can put in pictures and things like that. So yeah, it'll do it all right from there. So that's a good question. But so I do this whole thing, and you see I have over here, I have 3 chapters that are built in. I have an About Central Baptist, I have the worship order, and then I have the announcements. The cool thing also with this is that you can create little sections. So if I wanted to make every announcement its own little section, because you can create like a table of contents. I could actually stick, if we had inserts, just scan pictures of them or take pictures direct from the computer and put them in there, and they'll show up just as pages in the ebook, which I really think is cool. But then you get done and you hit publish. I'm going to regenerate this book. And let's see what it looks like. Watch, it's going to be completely a mess. Open in iBooks. There we go. So here's the cover. You can set that up in there. There's the About Central Baptist. And here's the worship order. This isn't set up as much as I like it. I can show you the one that I do, because I typically use Scrivener to make this, but there's no mobile app for that. And here's the announcements. And it's nice.
That creates this?
What's that?
What's the app called you use that creates this from?
Creative Book Builder.
Creative Book Builder, and it's an iPad app, right?
It is an iPad app. There is an Android app. It's not quite as good as the iPad app. They're slower in developing it. But I really enjoy it. Last year, actually, I took every one of my sermons after I got done everything, and I made an ebook out of it in this app, just to keep track of all my sermons over the year.
Okay.
And I really like it. So you can get it done, and then you can upload stuff to Dropbox, and then copy the public link and post it on the web. It's really cool.
So that would handle the bulletin side of this. What about, like, for mobile calendaring? What would you suggest to help people with that? By the way, let me just quickly show you the before you answer that question. Let me show you the Creative Book Builder link on the website here, just so you know if you are going to get it on your iPad. Notice, first of all, it is $3.99, which is a cheap, for a solution like this that looks pretty cool. That's an inexpensive, $4. Just don't get coffee tomorrow, and you get this instead, and you're good. And actually, I like this. I'm going to go ahead and I think pick this up probably. Just I don't plan to do my bulletins with it, but like you said, creating a book version of your sermon and say, hey, folks, here's my sermon from last week if you want to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my people will go, I didn't want to have to listen to it, let alone read the thing. But I'm kidding. Anyway, so you were getting ready to say something before I interrupted you. What was that?
Well, no, you were going to ask about calendaring.
Yeah, mobile calendaring. What would you suggest, either of you guys? Antoine, let's talk to you first, since you're sort of the mobile guy. What would you suggest for a group sharing of a mobile calendar? Just something like Google Calendar, or what?
Yep, that's it. That's all you need. Google Calendar, OwnCloud Calendar. You don't need anything else. You know, it's not all that difficult these days to set up a calendar. Google Calendar is probably really simple. I just literally set up a calendar for one of my local YMCA's, a private Google Calendar for them, because we had to go around and through the woods, and it requires almost no training whatsoever. Everybody can get up to speed on it. Everybody can put it onto their mobile devices. It's nice and simple. Or if you're, like I said, if you're in Wes's category where you're running OwnCloud, OwnCloud has a calendar that acts exactly like Google Calendar. So you can set up read-only rights, so you can share it publicly so people can just see it. And you can set up a different group that has write access, so you can have multiple people come in and edit that calendar along the way.
Let me also mention one other thing I just thought of, and that is Faith Life. I'm a Logos user, and you can set up a group on Faith Life that has calendaring, messengering, notifications, community notes, but it also then lets them incorporate Bible activities. And unfortunately, 2 people set up a group for our church, so we actually have 2 High Peak Baptist Church groups. Sadly, you see that no one in our church uses it. There's only 2 members there, as you can tell. But and that's part of that is because I have never even advertised it. But another one is the Bible app from Life Church TV YouVersion. You can set up using theirs, where if they have the Bible app installed, then you can set up a worship service. And I forgot how to do that on the website here. It's somewhere. But anyway, you can set up this kind of thing where they can open up sermon notes, and it includes giving links and all kinds of stuff. And I did use this for our church pretty regularly for a while, and then I got lazy and busy, and so I quit doing it each week. So those are two other great options when you're talking about the church bulletin service, and those are both free. Faith Life groups and the YouVersion Bible app. And they'll both do calendar stuff as well if you want to.
Hey, Kevin, I wanted to let you know I am using the Bible app for my yearly read-through of Scripture this year.
Oh, yeah? How do you like it?
It's a Bible app. I kind of wish I could flip instead of scroll to get through the content, but I like it.
There's not a setting for that. I don't use it that way, but
no, it's because when you tap to flip, it goes to the next chapter that's in your plan. Yeah. So I like that. That's one of the reasons why I tried it instead of Olive Tree, because Olive Tree is getting a little glitchy with they go to the next button. Right. They're going to fix that, so I figured I'd use it this year.
Okay. All right. I think this covers this topic, unless one of you guys have something else as far as mobile church.
Let me just throw this out. Well, I'll throw this out there. If a church is looking at using a mobile calendaring app or mobile calendaring service, it will ask them to revisit the idea of how they do their bulletins. It's gonna challenge the way that you do your bulletins as soon as you go to a mobile calendar or an online calendar, shared calendar. You start finding that you're duplicating efforts, and you'll want to not do that as often.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I think if you are doing it to make it digital or mobile, you're going to quit wanting to do it other ways as well. And plus, it's just so easy because you can show people. You'll have to sort of do some education of this for technological neophytes, but if I've got my personal calendar in Google, and then I create a church calendar in Google, I just subscribe to the church calendar, and it always shows up. So the minute your leadership team puts something on the church calendar, it shows up in the members' calendar without them doing a single thing.
And that's exactly what it is that we sit down, it's like, when are we going to do this? Okay, and I just put it on the calendar, and it's there.
Yeah, so in your meeting, when you're planning out the next month's events or next year's events or whatever, whenever you do that, however far in advance you do that, instead of typing notes and then putting together a printed calendar and then entering it into Google Calendar, you just have someone sit there with their phone and boom, 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 throw it in the calendar immediately. Or if you're like me, you type faster than you tap, with your laptop or your tablet with keyboard or whatever. Mm-hmm. The more I see this stuff and the more I live my life almost exclusively digital, except when people force me back into the old world, as I would call it, I find myself saying, man, I wish that, at least half of our people would live this way. But I'm in a church where even the technological, the people who are very technologically savvy still don't work that way with this kind of thing, and so it's frustrating a little bit for me. But hey, that's all right. You go pastor the people you're called to pastor, and you pastor them as they are, not the way you wish they were. So, all right, let's move on. We had a sort of I read an article on TechCrunch, which they're not at all a Christian site, but it was called "Run a Nonprofit Like a Startup to Move Fast and Help Things." That's a long title, but probably picked very carefully for the clickbaitness of it, I guess. I don't know. Whenever I see a title like that, I think, they did a lot of Google working to find all the keywords to throw in there to make it sound good. But anyway, it was a good article, and what they were talking about is not Christian churches, but they were just talking about nonprofits in general, and they made some key points, and I want us to just kind of talk about these. And one of the first ones they said in this article, if you go to techcrunch.com and just search for, run a nonprofit like a startup, you'll find this article, so you can follow along if you're listening or watching us on this. But the first thing it says is find your organizational focus. Wes, as a pastor, translate that into churchese for us. What is that? What are they saying?
Find your missional focus. Who are the people you're supposed to be serving in Jesus' name?
Yeah. What's your focus as a church? And I think, I've done a lot of study on this, and I'm not 100% sold on all the church growth side of this, but some of it is valid, and that is Donald McGavran, who used to be a big church growth guru, said he coined the phrase the homogeneous unit principle of church life. What's that?
I said, excuse me for a second.
Well, theoretically, I don't like it, but practically, it's true. I mean, people want to worship with people like them. They hang out with people like them. They do stuff with people like them. I wish it wasn't that way.
We'll have a conversation about that. It's like I just talked about how that economy is collapsing.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But what you do need to do, though, is I think you need to take, now the more modern term for this is a missional approach. I also don't like that. Why did you have to make up a new word for it? But the point is, treat it like a missionary, which is what we are, and you look at your context and reach your context. So, for example, you guys are in two totally different contexts than I am. I'm in what, in Southern Baptist life, we call it the town and country setting, where it's not totally rural, but it's also not even suburban. It's small towns that are interspersed between rural areas, and the rural areas in my neighborhood are 2 or 3 miles away, so they're pretty close, and we've got some rural mentality people in our church, but we also have the small town people. That's the majority of them, and so that's the kind of people I need to figure out who they are and reach. And so I'm a cross-cultural missionary because I'm a city kid who grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm pastoring a town and country church in the foothills of western North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And Antoine, you're down there in Charlotte, and while you're not a pastor, I hope you attend church on a regular basis. And what kind of church do you attend? A church that is trying to focus on reaching more urban to suburban kinds of people. I'm not sure what kind of church you attend, Antoine.
Several. I'm weird in that respect because my group is everybody, so I get to go to everybody's church.
Okay.
I'm a little weird in that respect. I don't sit in the normal bucket.
Okay, but you understand what we're saying. Those churches that you attend on a regular basis, they need to focus on a context, right? They're not going to try to reach a whole bunch of northerners from the northwest. They're gonna try to reach Charlotte people because they're in Charlotte.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that's one part of finding your organizational focus. But I know when you talk the church growth movement and some of the folks that have done things well, one of the things that they figure out is, are we a church that disciples well? Are we a church that enables missionaries to do their job well?
Mm-hmm.
Are we a global missions church? Are we a local missions church? What in that context, whatever that particular church's niche is, what do they do really well that allows the gospel to go forth in a specific area and then focus towards that? So we have too many churches in Charlotte, but we have some churches that are somehow or another they attract people who are new to the country. The churches really tend to do what those churches do really well in missional outreach. So they work with immigrants, and on one end, and on the other end, they send people, to those respective countries where their community comes from. We have other churches that are 100% devoted to feeding the hungry, clothing, those that need clothes, that are here locally, and that's where their connections is, and so that's where they epitomize or at least speak to the gospel in that area. So I think in finding your organizational focus is not just, I speak to the people that look like me, but I find out, what is it that I'm uniquely gifted to do as a body, as a church body, and then go to that area. That's where we focus our energies at. We don't say that we have all these immigrants coming in, and then be in the sports ministry, because that's not your focus. Your focus is, you already have your focus is already the people that you're attracting, and focus on what they.
What you're saying is, because that's almost, I don't know, maybe it's a semantics thing, but it's almost contradicting one of the other tenets of this article. It talks about running your nonprofit like a startup, and of course, first of all, we didn't really even define what we mean by startup, and that's, startups are new companies that are brand new, and so you just started it. In the church life, we would say run your church like a church plant. And of course, a lot of mainstream traditional churches are going to the approach of, hey, let's replant this church. That's something that a lot of folks are thinking and doing these days. In fact, I know of a couple just in our area that did this recently. So one of them was a church that was probably about almost as old as my church. We were started in the 30s. 1930s, and they had one name, and they renamed their church and that sort of thing. But what it said is to think big, and so I think what they mean by it is have a big vision. Don't just limit yourself. So, for example, in my context, I would say, well, we're not going to reach people from Morganton. If you don't know anything about the geography, Morganton is, just 4 exits down the road. But if I didn't think big, I would think, there's no way that people from Morganton are coming to my church because we're in Valdez, the small town 3 towns over.
Okay, let me.
He's saying, hang on, just let me finish my point. He's saying, think big, as in don't limit yourself in that way. But Antoine, what you were almost saying was, think small too. Think of a niche focus, which is
think small, think focused.
But you see what I'm saying? The difference. I guess what I'm trying to say.
I know.
Have a big vision, but have a focused vision. And so it's big and small, but they're not the same. They're not the opposites, big and small. Like the people think about big and small as antonyms, but in this context, big is in one realm and then small is in the other realm. Whereas if I try to focus on too many big things, then if I say my focus is I want to reach everybody, well, then you're going to reach nobody. But if you say I want to reach this focused group of people, but I have a big vision for how we're going to reach that focused group of people. And I just wanted to make that clear because that's in that article, and I think that's a problem a lot of church people have is they think if I think big, that means I got to reach everybody. No, it means you need to have a big vision for that very focused vision.
Kev, when my church just got through a transition plan, and one of the starting points of that was to go, we have to find like 3 or 4 things that we do really well. Because we had a hangover from the 80s when the church growth and the mega church movement all took off, and all these little churches burned themselves out to cinders trying to be we're going to do it all church, and everybody burned out, and half of them left because they didn't get their way, and it was a mess because they were working off of I think a toxic model. But so when we were going through the transition, it was find the 3 or 4 things that we do really well, and that's what we ended up doing. The church looked around and said, well, what are some stuff that we actually are good at, that we are called to? And we got to a kind of a general model, and now that it's been put into place, now we're starting to see specific things come out. There's a home down the street. It's the Riverview Estates, is the Baptist home of South Jersey. It's part of my denomination, and we've always had a good relationship with them. But it seems interesting now because we've now focused in. Everybody's gone, well, it's right there. We are really going to do even more stuff down there. And so the church is thinking big with all the stuff that we can do alongside of these folks, but it's got that. It's got that narrow focus to it. And that I find that really kind of freeing for people when they think big in a focused context.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just that idea of, what do we do well? There's very few churches of my size that do well all the things that our denomination seems to want us to do. They program us to do this, and this, and then also do that, and that. Whereas, we're lucky if we can do this, and that. So that's a great point. The last point I want to make from that article, we're coming up over an hour now on our podcast, but it is to never stop innovating. And isn't this, you guys, would you agree with me that this is kind of the death knell of the church, is that we never stop not innovating, is what our mantra usually is. The old, we never did it that way before. There's a silly a silly Southern gospel song called "The 7 Last Words of the Church." We never did it that way before, and it's I don't like the song very well, but I like the message of it. Is very appropriate. How do you overcome that? What's that?
It's a fun exercise is to look back at the history of individual churches, and you can see almost when they stop innovating, because for the first 60 or 70 years, especially churches that were started in the 1800s, they built a new church every 10 years. My church is actually 3 buildings. 1929 hit, and they haven't built anything since.
Yeah.
It's been, it's really interesting to watch.
Well, I think that's something, we don't have to have a long conversation about that, because I think almost every person in church life agrees that that's a problem. Even those who don't want to change know that they're supposed to. So,
well, I want to speak to that point, because I was having a conversation last night and with a person who's pretty high up in a few organizations here in Charlotte, and he was saying how the organization he was a part of, that the leadership didn't look at the numbers, the changing demographic numbers of Charlotte. This year, the Charlotte metro area became one of 60 areas where the population shift, the number of minorities is greater than the majority in terms of regional population. 54% of the population of Charlotte-Mecklenburg is a minority population, and most of that is African American and Latino. But but the organization he works for, minorities made up only 13% of the people that worked full time. And so they were trying to figure out, why are our numbers stagnant? Why are we down? Why are we not focusing? And one of the questions I said is, well, it's not so much that you just don't look like the persons that you're trying to serve, but you don't know how to tap into what makes those new people that have come into your area tick. And so I think speaking towards innovation, it's not just inventing new things, but it's learning how to listen and learning how to speak differently than we may have been accustomed to. And so, while in startup culture, innovation for startup culture is burn down the house, pivot, and do something else again. Innovation culture for the church has to start with how do we listen and how do we speak to the world that's changing around us, and then how do we focus on what God wants us to do best in order to speak and listen to them effectively.
And bringing this back to our technological focus that we supposedly have here, a lot of people think that, what are you doing, opening candy over there, Ben?
I'm sorry. I was going to get ready to use the scanner app.
Okay, that's fine. What I was going to say was a lot of us get into this trap of, innovating and technology are hand in hand in the church. That, if we just install a bunch of technology, then we're going to be better at this stuff. And that nothing could be further from the truth. Technology are tools. Innovation has to do with our method of discipleship and how we worship, how we reach people. That's what has to be innovative, not the tools that we use. You can use old-fashioned tools. You could have a church without a single piece of electronic equipment that is incredibly innovative today. If it does a lot of very unique and creative methods of discipling and training and then evangelizing and then gathering them for fellowship and worship. And, speaking as the guy who loves technology for technology's sake, I probably love it too much. That's pretty unusual to say, but I wholeheartedly believe that, and I'm afraid that we get into this trap. I remember when I first came to High Peak, my present church, and the attitude was, we install this projector, and it's going to totally revolutionize our worship. But, it didn't. We still basically do the same format of worship. We just now put the words on a screen instead of pulling up a book, and when I'm preaching, I show pictures behind it. That is different than what they were doing, and so that's somewhat innovative, but it's not even close to really focusing on innovation. So that's, I guess, maybe to put an exclamation point on this discussion, that we need to think like and I think it's a flavor, an attitude of an organization that says, we're comfortable with who we are, versus we're not at all satisfied with what we are, and we need to keep moving. And I think that's what that article meant. Treat your nonprofit like a startup, is have that hunger and never be satisfied with where you're at. And that's what we need to focus on as a church, and that might include technology, or it might not include technology. But this has been a great discussion this morning, guys. I really appreciate you guys being with us today, and hopefully we'll be back next week with some more exciting and interesting information for you. And anything you guys want to share before we conclude?
No, I mean, Kevin, I know it looked like I wasn't paying attention because I was playing with the scanner. Your last word, I just want to say, amen. Very, very, very poignant. And I used to tell people, I would get offended when they would tell me that I was innovative. I'm like, that's not a compliment to me. I want to be connected to the church. Maybe I'll innovate methods, but I always have to tie it into the back. And if you can do a reach out without tech, then go out and do it. And that was brilliant. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Antoine.
No, focus. Like you said, we have to. The big and the small of focus is really that really stands out. A ministry that's not focused can't think about being innovative or anything else. So.
And ultimately, the focus is on who, not what, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ. the triune God, and that's what we need to be focused on ultimately and primarily. Guys, it's been great. For those of you who are watching or listening to this, we hope that you'll return and share it, let other people know about it. If you're seeing us on YouTube, which a lot of people, that's the way they enjoy the Theotek Podcast, then we hope that you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel and also to share it with other people. Tweet it. Put us on Facebook. We've got ways to do that. You can go to theotek.com where you can find other ways to get us. We're on iTunes and Stitcher Radio for the audio version of this. And we apologize for you audio listeners. Sometimes we get a little bit visual focused, but we'd love for you to come watch live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday mornings. That's when we do this on a regular basis. If you'll follow me at K.A. Purcell on Twitter, then you'll always be able to find that, or Kevin Purcell on Google+, and you'll always be able to find where we are. Or if you want to follow these guys, and just go to theotek.com to find out how to follow all of us in all of our different ways, and we'll be happy to do that. Hopefully we'll get LaRosa in here eventually. I know he's going to have to refocus a little bit, may not be one of our regulars here on Theotek going forward, but we really appreciate him. If you ever want to hear anything from us, let us know. We would love to talk about things and interact with you. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.